What's oil got to do with gold? So much, says my guest today on Kitco News, Peter Beutel. He's the president of Cameron Hanover, a firm that provides daily energy reports. Peter, thank you for joining us today on Kitco News.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Peter, so first question for you. We've heard so much about the impact that the debt crisis has had on gold, but let's talk a little bit about the debt crisis and its impact on oil.
Well, it's had a huge impact, and every time that it makes the dollar move lower, the oil price moves higher. Every time that it pushes the stock market higher, it tends to push oil prices higher. So the debt crisis is something we never in the past would have worried about, but through the medium of the stock market and the euro dollar, the dollar euro, oil has been following through those two media.
So let's talk a little bit about this correlation between oil and gold, Peter. When oil goes up, gold will tend to do what?
Well, when this relationship started, it was the late 70s, and the relationship was very, very close. Every time oil would make new high prices, gold would go ahead and make new highs as well. We went through a period, actually, where gold and oil did not have that tight a correlation, really between 1982 and about 2007. But since that time, every time gold has gone higher as a hedge against inflation, oil has gone higher with it as its twin brother. The time when they do not move together is when you see gold being used as a safe haven. Oil tends to be viewed more as an asset than as a safe haven. So that's when they tend to move apart.
Now, 1982 to 2007 is a period where we saw Desert Storm, the Afghani war. Were the wars a reason that oil and gold were no longer in sync?
Well, it was certainly a big factor in the gold, but really a lot more that it had to do with was the simple fact that between 82 and '07, oil really followed its own fundamentals a lot more. It would follow weather, it would follow the wars as gold did, but it tended not to follow things like the dollar or what was going on with the economy. We were actually reasonably blessed between 1983, 84, and 2007. That entire period was a period really of growth with just a couple mild recessions in the early 90s and again in the early 2001, 2, 3 period, but nothing like the recession we've had now. Since the Great Recession, gold and oil have both been very, very interested in what's going on in the economy. And so that really is the big correlation. It's the economy and how important that is on oil that has really brought gold and oil together again.
Right. So as you say, Peter, oil and gold together once again. So is your advice that we should be paying attention to the price of oil when investing in gold?
Absolutely, because oil is something that is so critical. Oil actually accounts for 1/5 of physical trade in the world, so that of all the things that are traded every day physically, 1 out of every 5 of those items or things is a barrel of oil. Oil also has a huge impact on consumers and on what they're seeing and on inflation. And it can act in 2 different ways. It can act as a tax on consumers, but it can also act as something that gets consumers worried about inflation. And you have 2 different approaches here. In 1980, when they last had a very tight correlation here, as oil prices went higher, people would buy gold, but they would buy other items thinking, if I don't buy it today, I'm going to pay more for it tomorrow. But during this Great Recession, oil has had a double effect where it has acted as a tax.
All right, Peter, finally to conclude, short-term forecast for oil and gold.
Well, gold seems to be going higher no matter what. It has inflationary pressures, it has the safe haven aspects, and as long as there's uncertainty, it seems like gold is going to continue finding it easier to track higher than lower. For oil, it appears that we're going to be trading in a volatile range here. We're going to be watching very carefully. But the minute that the Fed comes out and says anything that sounds like QE3 or sounds like it's going to act like that, then oil prices will be off to the races again. and at that point, we'll see higher prices. We have plenty of supply. There are chances we can move lower, but ultimately, at some point, oil prices are probably going to go higher again.
All right, Peter, thank you for joining us.
It was my great pleasure.
And you can read more about Peter's work at CameronHanover.com. He has a daily energy report. You can get more information on this site. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Peter will be back with us next week. For Kitco News, I'm Daniela Cambone.